Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Racing House. My name is Sakki, and today we're joined by Adam again. How are you, Adam?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. A bit achy, like I said, but we've had a very interesting last race. Quite a few incidents that happened. We're going to be talking about the situation with Alex Albon, whether we would pick him, Perez, or Hulkenberg, or another driver to take that second seat at Red Bull. We'll also be talking about Lewis Hamilton, alluding to the fact that he may not be in F1 next year, and we'll also talk about the curious case with George Russell. So, yeah, what did you think of the last race?
I think I enjoyed it. I remember the track. I remember Imola, San Marino,
Mm,
whatever it's been called previously, in all these previous seasons.
yeah,
Um, so it was nice to have that track back on the calendar. I think it was good to get another of these retro tracks back and have something with a little bit more flavour and a really recognisable track in a different landscape and wasn't the greatest in terms of racing, in terms of
mm.
wheel to wheel. I think for the novelty value alone, I think it was good just for that. What did you think?
Yeah, it wasn't the greatest race. Like the first half was pretty stale to be honest, and then it picked up a little bit when there was a chance that Lewis was going to go. Well, Lewis went long into the race, and then the safety car and all the people just going off, and the chaos kind of created some sort of drama, some sort of hype, and some interesting points to talk about. Guys, if you're watching, thanks for joining. Please hit the like button. It really helps us get the video out to more people. Leave a comment down in the section below. If you want to ask any questions, we'll be happy to kind of do our best to answer them. Um, let's move on to Alex Albon because he had a very interesting race. He's obviously had that time frame imposed of him where Christian Horner and Helmut Marko um, basically said you've got two races to claim your seats next to Max, which was a very interesting thing for them to say in the first place. Um, and then he obviously had this race where, for me, he should have been capitalising on the chaos. Like this was the perfect race for the teams who wouldn't necessarily be in the points or competing for a podium to do that. And he should have been up there competing to be on the podium. And again, he failed to put the car in the right place and show that he's got what it takes to claim that second seat, to the extent where he started racing with a few of the drivers. Perez in particular showed the two bosses at Red Bull what he's about and why they should consider him to take that seat. Passed, so Perez passed Albon, and then Albon just put his foot on it and span. He did a Sebastian Vettel for no reason. And what I found, because I sent you a video earlier on today, because I was watching the highlights after the race as well, and his interview, he actually said that someone hit him, and he said it with such confidence.
Mm.
I was just like, wow, this guy he's really channeling that inner positivity. So I do respect him for that. I rate him for that because he's staying positive. Um, but it does call into question that seat that is up for grabs, and I think a lot of people are of the opinion that he's just he's just basically ruined his chances of holding on to that seat. Um, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I hate to be cringe and it's doing the rounds, but it's Alex Elgon, isn't it now? I think he's out of that seat. I don't think there's a way for him to come back. I mean, you look at you look at the race, and like you say, there was such a good opportunity for him to, he could have capitalised on Gasly retiring,
Yep,
could have capitalised on Max, and as much as it's his teammate, it's still a position that he could have gained.
yep,
Um, and as always, Max showed that the car had plenty of pace. And I know that there's questions over setup and that it's not really in Alex's favour and all that sort of stuff. But when you're at this level and you're in one of the top two teams in the sport, in the world, in terms of, just raw performance,
yep,
you can't be languishing down towards the bottom end of the points and then step on the accelerator and spin the car before the end, he ended up finishing last of the finishers. And it's not a good message where obviously Max had that freak kind of tyre blowout or whatever it was that led to that blowout.
Mm.
You've got to score points there. You've got to score good points, and that's an opportunity to say, yeah, I am here, I am still contributing, and be that second driver that you need when that top driver goes out. You need those solid points. I know the constructors' championship's over now, but
Yeah.
there's still a theme there where you've got to continue contributing, and he just didn't.
Adam, speak
Seeing
up a
him
little bit,
behind
please. I
both
think we're having
AlphaTauris.
people saying they've got
Sorry,
audio
yeah.
issues.
In terms of both AlphaTauris being ahead of him and things like that, that's not what we need. It kind of. I think he's written the last chapter for himself there. Like I say though, the two race thing is
Yeah.
interesting because we've still got quite a few races left. So it suggests that there's maybe something in the works, or they've got a deadline in house that they want to make a decision in terms of the drive lineup. So maybe there's more going on behind the scenes. But as you say, Perez kind of showed something there going around the island. And I think that's as big a metaphor as you need, really, looking at next year.
Yeah, and I think the thing is with Albon, he's had obviously a bit of last year, which he did reasonably well, and he's got obviously. I think you're frozen, Adam. Do you want to leave the convo and join again?
Okay.
Yeah, we'll go with that. So yeah, the thing is with Albon, I think he's obviously had last year and then part of this year to show what he's about. So it's going to be tough for him to really claim back that seat. He's had ample opportunity to do it. So for me, it's a case of seeing who the other options are. And I think the only other options are Perez and Hulkenberg. And for me, the options are pretty clear. For me, it's you have to go with Perez because with Red Bull looking to kind of develop their own engines going forward, he's going to bring money to the table. Developing engines is an expensive game. You can't really do it without seriously thinking about the financials behind it and the implications that come with that. So Perez, he brings money to the table. He's quick. If you look at his points tally at the moment, it's ridiculous for a driver that's just been let go by his team. Essentially, he's doing better than the teammate that's staying at Racing Point, and he's up there in terms of the table, competing with the likes of Ricardo and Leclerc. Yeah, they technically may have a better car, but I'm not quite sure. Oh, let me just. You're back. Yeah, I was just saying the reasons why I'd go with Perez as opposed to Hulkenberg for that seat. I think, yep, he brings money to the table is the main point, but the performances that he's putting in at the moment are just, they're pretty impressive when you think he's the one that's losing his seat and Stroll was just falling away. It's just like, it's worrying if I was the Racing Point managing director or team principal. It would worry me because if you can just back off that easily, now that you're pretty much secure, what's to stop you from doing that when your teammate comes on board? I can imagine Sebastian Vettel being quite imposing as well, wanting to get his own way. But it'd be interesting to hear who you'd go with.
Yeah, I think in terms of it filtering down to Racing Point, I think Perez put in another good performance and was let down by the decision. And obviously, you could kind of understand the decision in a vacuum, but then in the wider context of the race and other people didn't make that decision, he ended up losing out. But like we've talked about previously, Stroll's had a good run in the beginning of the year and really seemed to prove himself and step up to the plate. But obviously, since he's had this time out, he's really struggled.
Yeah.
But I think Perez is a logical step for Red Bull. Like you say, he brings the money into the team. He's clearly talented. He's clearly got years left in him. I think he's a logical next step. And I know there's a lot of talk of Hulkenberg and him speaking Dutch and being close with Max and
Yeah.
all that sort of stuff. But he's not bringing tens of millions of of euros into the
Yeah.
development of a car.
We've
And
got
I
a
think
comment
that's
here
what killing
from
us.
Omar Moafi. Sorry for butchering your name if that's not right. But he says they say that Hulkenberg will be a better number two. And I've read this somewhere coming from the mouth of the Red Bull leadership that they think Hulkenberg may be a better number two to sit with Max, which kind of it's a big flag to the fact that they want someone that is quick but not too quick. Someone that's quick but doesn't have ambition of being the top dog in a team. Not that may be the thing with Perez or Hulkenberg, but that might signify the fact that there isn't much kind of equal treatment in the team, and that's what someone like Perez would expect coming into the team, being able to show how quick you are. I'm not quite sure he would get that basic level of respect from the Red Bull team, because I'm pretty sure, like I've said it so many times, I'm pretty sure Max has got that written into his contract that he's the number one driver. So that is a bit ominous for Perez if that is the case. I'm just going to read a few more comments out. Someone said, "Did you see Marcus Ericsson tweet to Russell?" He said, "Oops, I did it again." Very funny. Guys, keep the comments coming in. Hit the like button for us if you're watching and you're enjoying. We're going to move on to the next question, or the next topic, which is the Lewis Hamilton one. So after the race, he said that there's no guarantee that he'll be racing next year. I sent the article that we would be using as the basis. They also discussed the fact that he could leave. He's not signed a deal to race long term, and he pretty much by the end of the season will have achieved everything there is to achieve in a sport. He won't be the outright leader in terms of championships, but he will have that race win tally, whole load of other records. And for me, I think he might be playing a little bit of a game here. I think he might be angling, applying the pressure to whoever makes the decisions to just say, listen, we've just secured the championship for the constructors. Now's the time to get serious and present a good deal. I think before, are they bringing in the potential salary cap next year or the year after? Because I've heard
I
that
can't
as well.
remember. I know they are talking about doing it, aren't they? That's something actually we've spoken about, isn't it? The salary cap type stuff. And then it's been announced later on, which is interesting. But
Yeah,
yeah, I agree. I think it's posturing, and I
yeah,
think it's just professional negotiating, just saying these things out in the press, putting these rumours out there that he might leave, and he's not signed. So as it stands, he doesn't have a drive, and he's got no commitment to anyone.
yeah,
So as much as he's in a bit of a vulnerable position in
yep,
some ways, he's not got a contract. He's also got all the bargaining power in the world because he's going to be a 7-time world champion. He's leader in all of these categories. He's undeniably still in a class of his own, I think. I know some people think that Max is at that similar level, but I think Lewis is a class of his own. So he's got all the room to negotiate, and I actually think it's probably less about money and more about brand direction and sustainability and that sort of stuff. I can imagine there's quite a lot of demands that he's got in terms of that sort of thing. So he even said that all of his supercars that he's got, he's not going to drive them anymore because he just wants to drive electric.
yeah. You
So
can give them to me if he fancies that. I'll take them.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a weird one. Like I definitely think he's just posturing. He's trying to angle for a better deal somehow. He's applying the pressure, using the experience that has been passed on from his dad to just make the most of the situation. Just bring people back down a few pegs. Remind them that yes, you've got Bottas there, who's a solid driver. We'll give him that, but the person bringing the majority of the points is not secure for the next few years. And me personally, I don't think he'll be here for too much longer. He'll race next year, I reckon. How much longer after that? Because I can imagine him wanting to do a lot more outside of the sport. Like I don't know, have you got any theories of what he would do outside of the sport? Because I know we've talked about this before.
Well, he's got his Extreme E team, hasn't he? That him and Rosberg are going to be competing against each other in. That's going to be really interesting. Like an off-road electric series. That's going to be really good. I've been thinking about his contract situation, and I know this is like my little pet conspiracy that I have about everything. But I always assume that Formula E is like involved in everything. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if, well, I would be surprised. Obviously, it'd be a huge shock. But there's even the possibility of him doing a couple more years at Mercedes in the F1 team, and then maybe doing something more electric related, something more sustainable related, or maybe just stepping away from racing altogether. But I think he'll either leave at the end of next year and try and go for 8 titles and stand alone, or he'll try and go for 10, maybe.
Really?
I
Bloody
think it's
hell.
possible. I think it's possible.
Give us a break, Lewis.
Yeah,
That is a lot.
yeah. It would be huge, but I think if he's with the team next year, which is looking, fairly likely, and they make noises to him and say, look, we think that we're way ahead of the curve in terms of development for 2022, and we think, we're going to be in a similar position, then you never know. You might be tempted, and you might think, yeah, okay, let's see what we can do with it. But yeah, I think realistically, he's going to do maybe one more year and then go in a different direction with it.
Yeah. Just thinking about, because I was watching the race yesterday, and there was a few moments where I was just shouting at the screen because it was like, what is going on? One of them was when Bottas just lost out. He just run out of luck. Lewis had all the luck for that race. Bottas didn't really do anything wrong. His car was damaged, and if you're Bottas as Lewis's teammate, you must be thinking, what do I need to do to be able to beat this guy? Because he's got the best car, he's got everything in place, driving pretty steadily. He's very quick in qualifying, but he's gonna have to deal with Lewis for another few years. And if I was Bottas, I'd be racking my brain. I'd be calling up Rosberg and saying, "How did you beat him? Let me know. Give me the inside tips." Because I think it with Rosberg, a lot of mind games came into play. That's the feeling that I got just listening to the content that Rosberg puts out there. But would Bottas be willing to go that far and just dedicate his life to beating Lewis? I don't quite see it personally. I don't quite see it.
Yeah, I don't think he's that tight. I don't think he would change his priorities from helping the team win to doing everything to beat Lewis. I think he's too much of a team player, which is exactly the sort of person that Red Bull would want. But there's not many drivers like that. They don't come along that often that are as quick, but are also as contribute to a greater whole. Which is why part of the reason why Bottas is so special and why Mercedes have had so much success. But I think realistically, I can't see Bottas beating Lewis when they're both in the same kit. I
Yeah.
can't see it.
Do you think Lewis plays mind games? Just a quick one, because I was
Yeah.
I was listening to something. I can't remember what it was, but someone basically said how Lewis has, whether it's on purpose, but he started not performing as much during the practice sessions. So it's Bottas in qualifying, or Bottas up to the last qualifying session, and then Lewis just comes out of nowhere, and they're basically implying that he's sandbagging so that Bottas can't use that data, because obviously they share the data between them, and Lewis being better in one section, which is highly likely in most scenarios, can help Bottas improve in the areas that he's not so great. So, yeah, I'm not too sure about that, but I know that with Rosberg, he definitely played those games. I'm not sure he really needs to with Bottas. So I feel like he's got the measure of him.
Yeah, but I think every race you see that champion's edge, like at the Nürburgring was another example where he tailed him, he put him under pressure, a little bit more pressure, a little bit more pressure, and then Bottas has this huge lockup, and that more or less decides the race.
Yeah.
Obviously, this this race at Imola was a little bit different because he was hampered by the debris under the car. But we've seen it a few times this season alone, where Lewis he just tends to screw a little bit, and Bottas just doesn't have that extra tenth or that extra 2 tenths or 3 tenths a lap
Yeah.
to kind of maintain that gap, and Lewis does, and he has it everywhere. And it must be so demoralising for Bottas to know that he's that close.
Yeah.
And if he was racing probably anyone else, maybe Max, maybe Danny Ricciardo, that's maybe it. If he was against anyone else, he would be winning those titles and those races, month in, month out. But he's just against one of the greatest of all time, and that's going to be his career, unfortunately, for Bottas.
Yeah, that is. Guys, if you're watching, please keep on leave the comments coming in. Hit the like button if you're enjoying. Got a few comments here. We've got Tomo F1, Hulk for second driver, status and relationship with Max, and then Sergio for performance and bringing in money to support the engine take on, which I think is a fair summary. Got one from Simesh: with some better marketing, I'm sure Perez could be a bigger personality in F1. I think that's quite a great point there. I think he's obviously got the huge South American market angle that they go with him, and he's very quick, brings money to the table. Sometimes I forget that he is a paid driver because of how good he is and how quick he can be, often quite recently beating his teammates. So keep the comments coming in. We're going to move on to George Russell. Yeah, get your tissues out. Shed some tears. It was very sad to see George Russell during the last race. Just to give you a recap, if you didn't see it or you're not aware, Russell was behind the safety car after a lot of people had basically pitted. He was trying to warm up his tyres and he just binned it into the wall. I couldn't believe when I saw it. I was on the purple sector yesterday doing a race review and just talking about that as my main topic, and I was hoping that it was Latifi. I know it's bad to say, but I was hoping that it wasn't George Russell, because he was in the position to capitalise, just like we were talking about. This race was a chance for a lot of people to capitalise, get points, get on the podium, etc., etc. And he was there. He'd done all the work in qualifying. He'd been consistent during the race, and I don't know what happened, but he's basically come out and said he's apologised, he made a mistake. But for me, it kind of worries me, because it's bad enough that happening in the way that he did, because you could see he was distraught. He didn't want to go anywhere. He just wanted to sit there. Sorry, I'm laughing at the comments. Liam Talks F1 has just said Russell became Grosjean. Please let that not be the case. But yeah, back to my point. He's done all the hard work basically to get himself into that position. All he needs to do is just keep the car on the track, and he just couldn't do it. And for me, it's been a recurrent theme with Russell. Like, he's done all the hard work. Fair enough, half the time it's not been his fault. There's been failures that he can't control, which has led to his retirement. But other times, you're just questioning his decision making and his ability when it comes to the crunch to just bring the points in. Because if we look at previous greats or even drivers that are young and tipped to be future champions, they've all been able to do it in the past. Even though they've not had the greatest car, they've put in the performances that has really allowed them to stand out and get the move to a bigger team. And for me, I'm waiting for Russell to do that. I know that he's got the ability, but it's just not quite fitting together, and this was just another example. I'm really hoping that he's not another nearly driver. I don't know what you thought about it.
Ooh, you're being a lot more harsh than I expected.
Do you know what? The only reason why I'm doing that is because it's happened, not to this level, but it's happened a few times where he's got really close, and you're like, yes, come on, George, just do it, get a point, get your first point, and it's this you can squarely lay the blame with him. Like, the other stuff is a bit so, but this, you've got to question his decision making to, in that position, be trying to warm up the tyres when there's limited space and a big wall on your left. Like you have to question it, and I think that's probably why he was being so hard on himself, because he knew it was in such close proximity to him, but he decided to do that, and it just didn't work out. So I don't know. Would you be a little bit less harsh?
No. I think he was coming over the crest, wasn't he? And then he kind of hit that little bump there, and it was just as he kind of, tried to light the tyres up a little bit and get some heat into them, but
it's his job to know the bumps there, right?
Yeah, this is where I was going. So, a lot of people in the commentary and the comments and stuff following and the coverage saying, "Oh, he was really unlucky that he hit that bump and stuff." But he's been there all weekend. He knows where the bumps are. Like, he's a 22-year-old professional, one of the most tipped drivers on the planet. He knows where the bumps are. So it's easy to jump on with everyone else and be like, "Oh, unlucky George," and you'll get it next time, and it's coming and all this sort of stuff. But like you say, it's an error, and if it had been anyone else, they'd be getting slated, absolutely slated. But because it's George, everyone wants him to do well, which I get. Like, I understand why, and I understand why he's popular, and I understand why he's highly touted, and I understand why a lot of people assume he's kind of the next in line for the Mercedes drive at some point. But you're right in what you say. These little errors and these little mistakes are the difference between a perennial champion or perennial frontrunner and someone who's very. So I think, going back off what you said, I think this will either be a real kind of nerve-wracking moment for him, and it might take him a while to recover, or it'll absolutely be the making of him, and we'll never see something like that from him again for years. And he will really get down now, and he'll be in the gym, and he'll be on the sim, and he'll be working with his engineers and stuff, and he'll really get his head down, and we'll see it sooner rather than later. We'll see those points come through, because in terms of his raw pace, in terms of qualifying, obviously it's impossible to outperform a car, but he's doing better than what that car should be capable of in the hands of another driver.
Yeah.
So he's proven that he's got raw pace. He's doing well in the race now. Williams have kind of worked on that aero, and there's obviously car development that's really kind of. I still think they're probably the slowest car, maybe second slowest, because I think the Haas team are really struggling at the minute. But I think there's clear progress there from the team side. So if I was to make a bet, I would still say he's going to get it before the end of the year. But like you mentioned, like, these opportunities are coming, and he needs to take advantage of one of them. But yeah, I think he'll be okay. But it's going to be one way or another. I think it's either going to break him or it's going to make him.
Yeah, I think so. What I want him to do, like you just said, is to get in the gym, get in the sim, just keep on pushing like he's been doing, like he's capable of doing, and just refocus, like everyone's been saying, take it as a learning experience. He's young, just forget about it. Obviously not forget about it to the extent where you do it again, but just
learn from it.
Yeah, learn from it, because he's capable of so much. Got a few people saying that was his chance of his Mercedes drive basically out the window, and then others saying that no, he'll sign for Merc. What do you think? Do you think they're taking note of this, or do you think they'll just put it down to being a young driver and learning?
Yeah, I think it'll be on their radar, and I think the unanimous praise of George will kind of maybe slow down a little bit as a result of this, and the buzz will kind of, like I said, the buzz will either go, and it'll kind of start to fade, and he's kind of, like you said, the potential will kind of be rubbed off a little bit, or like it'll be the making of him, and it'll be like, look at George's amazing recovery from this moment at the Emilia Romagna. It'll, like, because if he gets a point in Turkey, everyone's going to be saying, "Oh, he's got the mental fortitude. He's a future world champion." Because the headlines change quick. Like, we've seen this.
Yeah.
Like when Albon podium at Mugello, everyone was like, "Yeah, this is Albon's time," and all this. And now, like, everyone's closed the door on him and thrown the key away. You know what I mean? Like, everyone just like knows that it's finished. So this time in a couple of weeks, we might be saying completely different things about Russell. So yeah, I think it's an isolated incident that the Mercedes Academy and Toto and all that group will kind of have a look at, but I think they'll be more interested on what happens next rather than what happened on Sunday. I think they'll be more interested in what happens in these next few rounds and see what his pace is like again and see what his performances are like again.
Yeah, going back to your point, I think I often forget how good a job he is doing for what the car is. Like, the car shouldn't be doing what it's doing in qualifying, and that probably makes the reaction from him and others probably more kind of hyped up and more extreme because they know that these chances don't really come up too often. So when they do, if you can control it, do everything that you can to get that point, because there'll be times where the safety car screws you over and it doesn't quite work out for you. All team decisions really impact on your race, and I think for me it was just a case of knowing that the chances don't come. But I think for me, like, just I need to remember that he is doing a good job. He's still got that talent there, and there's more races to be able to get his first points in F1. So fingers crossed he'll be able to do that. Fingers crossed they'll still be able to go racing. And that's pretty much it for today's live stream. If you're watching this on replay, please leave a comment in the comment section. Subscribe if you're not subscribed already. It really does help us out. But yeah, thank you for joining, Adam. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.